Good day to you. Now we are going to see about the topic OSI model, that is of Open Systems Interconnection. OSI, it's a Open Systems Interconnection, is a reference model for how applications communicate over a network. A reference model is a conceptual framework for understanding the relationships. That is, this is a model which focuses on providing a visual design of how each communications layer is built on top of the other, starting with the physical cabling all the way to the application that is trying to communicate with others devices in a network. History of the OSI model. In the 1970s, technology researchers began examining how computer systems could best communicate with each other. Until 1984, when the International Organization for Standardization, that is of ISO, took the best parts of competing network references model to purpose OSI as a way to finally create a framework that technology companies around the world could use a basis of their network technologies. That is of most vendors involved in this telecommunications try to describe their products and services in relations to the OSI model. This helped them differentiate among the various transport protocols, addressing schemes, and communication packages methods. And although it's useful for guiding discussion and evaluations, the OSI model is the theoretical in nature and should be used only as general guide. That is because few network products of standard tools keep related functions together in a well-defined layers, as is the case in the OSI model. The transmission control protocol or internet protocol, that is of TCP or IP, it suits. For example, it is the most widely used network protocol, but even it doesn't map cleanly to the OSI model. How the OSI model works? Information technology, that is of IT, networking professionals use OSI to model or conceptualize how data is sent or received over a network. The 7 layers of functions are provided by a combination of applications operating system, that is of OSs, network card device drivers, networking hardware and protocols that enable a system to transmit a signal over a network through various physical mediums, including twisted pair cables, twisted pair copper, fiber optics, Wi-Fi, etc. That is of understanding. This is a functional part of most IT networking certifications, including the Cisco Certified Network Association, that is of CCNA, and CompTIA network plus certification programs. As mentioned, the model is designed to break down the data transmission standards, processes, and protocols over a series of 7 layers, each of which is responsible for performing specific tasks concerning sending and receiving the data. What are the 7 layers of the OSI model is? It is a bottom-up approach, that is of application layer. The application layer is the 7th layer. Application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and physical layer. The main concept of OSI is that the process of communication between two endpoints in a network that can be divided into 7 distinct groups of related functions or layers. That is of this is the pictorial representations is it's shown on the and each communicating user or program is on a device that can provide those 7 layers of functions. That is, in this architecture, each layer serves a layer above it and in return is served by the layer below it. That is why I am saying it is a bottom-up approach. So in a given message between users, there will be a flow of data down through the layers in the source of computer across a network and then up through the layers in the receiving computer. Only the application layer at the top of the stack does not provide the service to a higher level layer. Here is a picture of application layer. It is the 7th layer in OSI model. This is the only layer that directly interacts with data from the user. Software applications like web browsers and email clients rely on the application layer to initiate communications, but it should be made clear that client software applications are not part of the application layer. Rather, The application layer is responsible for the protocols and data manipulations that the software relies on to present meaningful data to the user. Application layer protocols include HTTP, that is of Hypertext Transfer Protocol, as well as SMTP, that is of Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, is one of the protocol that enables email communications. Next, we are going to see about the sixth layer, the presentation layer. This layer is primarily responsible for preparing data so that it can be used by the application layer. In other words, layer 6 makes the data presentable for applications to consume. The presentation layer is responsible for translation, encryption, and compression of data. Two communicating devices communicating may be using different encoding methods. So layer 6 is responsible for translating the incoming data into a syntax that the application layer of the receiving device can able to understand. If the devices are communicating over an encrypted connection, layer 6 is responsible for adding the encryption on the sender's end as well as decoding the encryption on the receiver's end so that it can present the application layer with unencrypted readable data. Finally, the presentation layer is also responsible for compressing data it receives from the application layer before delivered into layer 5. This helps improve the speed and efficiency of communication by minimizing the amount of data that will be transferred. Next, we are going to see about the fifth layer, the session layer. This is a layer responsible for opening and closing the communication between the two devices. The device between when the communication is open and closed is known as the session. The session layer ensures that the session stays open long enough to transfer all the data being exchanged and then promptly closes the session in order to avoid wasting resources. This session layer also synchronizes the data transfer with checkpoints. For example, if a 100 megabyte file is being transferred, the session layer could see a checkpoint every 5 megabytes. In the case of disconnect or a crash after 52 megabytes have been transferred, the session could be resumed from the last checkpoint, meaning only 50 more megabytes of data need to be transferred. Without the checkpoints, the entire transfer would have been again from scratch. These are the process taken from the session layer. Next, we are going to see about the transport layer. What is the meaning of the transport layer? So now we are going to see about the layer 4, transport layer. It is normally we know about the transport, that is of end-to-end communication, the same process which will be taken place in OSI Model 2. The transport layer is the fourth layer, is responsible for end-to-end communication between the two devices. This including taking data from the session layer and breaking it up into chunks, that is called segments, before sending it to layer 3. The transport layer on the receiving device is responsible for reassembling the segments into the data the session layer can consume. The transport layer is also responsible for flow control and error control. Flow control determines an optimal speed of transmission to ensure that a sender with a fast connection that does not overwhelm a receiver with a slow connection. The transport layer performs error control on receiving end by ensuring that the data received is complete and requesting a retransmission if it isn't. After the transport layer, we come to layer 3, the network layer. The network layer, it is responsible for facilitating data transfer between two different networks. If the two devices communicating are on the same network, then the network layer is unnecessary. The network layer breaks up segments from the transport layer into smaller units. The smaller units, I'm telling no, that is of network layer breaks up segments. Each segments of transport layer into smaller units, that is called packets on the sender's device, and reassembling these packets on the receiving device. The sender Each packet will be going to the receiving device. The network layer also finds the best physical path for the data to reach its destination. This is known as routing. What is the meaning of the routing? What is the definition of routing? The network layer also finds the best physical path for the data to reach its destination. It is called as routing. The next second layer is data link layer. The data link layer is very similar to the network layer, except the data link layer facilitates data transfer between two devices on the same network. The data link layer takes packets from the network layer and breaks them into small pieces, that is called frames. Like the network layer, the data link layer is also responsible for the flow control and error control in intra-network communication. That is of the transport layer only does flow control and error control for inter-network communication. But in the data link layer, the data link layer is also responsible for flow control and error control in intra-network communication. But in transport layer, it flow control and error control for inter-network communication. That is much difference. That is a small difference, not much difference. Sorry. The next one is a physical layer. This layer includes the physical equipment involved in the data transfer, such as the cables and switches. This is also the layer where the data gets converted into a bit stream, which is a string of ones and zeros. The physical layer of both devices must also agree on a signal convention so that the ones can be distinguished from the zeros on both devices. These 7 layers, the process of 7 layers will be performed with the help of transmission media to the to the receiver. Sender sending the message. These are all the process taken place through the transmission media. The same process will be continued to the receiver. What are all the physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, then application layer. That is it. If you like this video, please like my video, subscribe my channel.